Greetings and welcome to the Industrial Lens Podcast. Here we examine cutting-edge insider knowledge on industrial equipment, strategy, and trends so that you can thrive and stay ahead of any challenges, seen or unseen. Now, let's get industrial.
Welcome to another episode of the Industrial Lens Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy King, and I am here with Director of Marketing at Cadenas USA, Adam Beck. Welcome, Adam, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking with us today. So we are here to talk about the world of CAD and its usefulness in terms of utility for engineers and more, and how marketers can capitalize on offering CAD to their customers. So we'll dive into that in a lot more detail. But Adam, do you want to start out by describing a bit about yourself and about Cadenas USA?
Yeah. So I'm the Director of Marketing at Cadenas USA, like you said. I identify as an industrial marketer. So it's a subset of B2B marketing. We see a lot of physical products, really cool stuff being manufactured. I have a real passion for that, manufacturing. So what you guys do is exciting for me. And we help industrial component manufacturers specifically get their products specified by providing content that their audience engineers needs.
Awesome. Thanks. Can you talk a little bit about Cadenas' start? Was it always involved in kind of the digital CAD world, or did it precede that?
We are OG internet. The company was founded in '92.
Okay.
So very early internet. Our founder Jürgen Heimbach out of Augsburg, Germany, was an absolute visionary. He saw that there's all these OEMs, and when they're specifying a caster or a bearing or whatever into their design, they would redraw that thing that someone else made. They're buying that product and they're redrawing them themselves. They had these low-level engineers spending vast amount of time drawing things, and it wasn't always accurate. It wasn't always reusable. It was just like this placeholder. And he said there has to be a better way to help component manufacturers deliver this content in a safe, secure way so that their audience can use it super effectively.
Awesome. Thanks. So something that you offer at Cadenas USA is a digital part catalog. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what the process is like when it comes to integrating a company's products into a digital part catalog?
Yeah, and that term catalog gets confusing for people because they think like the PDF page flipper thing. And what it really is you take the idea of what you're looking for in a catalog, and you're flipping through that, and you want to find the caster that you want, and you want to find the right surface material and the bearing type, and does it have a lock or not. We help that become an online experience. So someone goes to your website, they can select the configuration, they can preview that model from any angle, and they can download it in whatever format they need to test within their design. So it's functionally all the things of a catalog. It's just not what your mind goes to as like the big, thick paper book.
Yeah. Okay. So who would benefit the most from your solutions in terms of industries maybe that Cadenas USA works with most often? And then obviously I mentioned engineers as mainly using your product, but who else beyond that would use it?
So well, let's go by industries first. So it's traditionally we were hard products, hard industrial components was our sweet spot. So bearings, cylinders, actuators, slides, all those things. And it has evolved over the years as these other industries have evolved along. So architectural products, electronic products, electrical products, anything that's specified into a larger design is a perfect fit for this. So, there's traditionally electronic components like little connectors and things. That was just a wiring diagram. But now that they're fitting all of those in such a tight space like your iPhone or whatever, they need to have the physical shape and size of those models in order to know the dimensions and all the, there's all these considerations. Same thing as, if you're designing a building, you need to know the windows and the doors and you're buying all those products. So those tend to be the end users that are accessing the content. And our customers, though, tend to be marketers at those companies. They're looking to create content to enable their customers to better specify their products.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that I want to bring up here in a bit, is actually how this is used as a marketing tool for some companies that maybe aren't doing this right now. That might be kind of a novel concept for them. In my day job at as Director of Marketing at Caster Connection, this is something that we use and we've found really useful from a utility perspective, but also as a marketing tool as well. So we'll definitely touch on that. How can companies that offer digital part solutions, how can they measure the ROI of implementing those in-house to offer to their customers and prospects?
It depends on how sophisticated their marketing setup is. So part of our whole tool is they can see how many downloads they're getting and track those over time. We've done a survey. We do it about every other year, and we've done it 7 times now. One of the things we've asked in the survey is, if you download a CAD model of a part, how often do you buy?
Sure.
And the newest version of that is 91%. So 91% of downloads, typically when that product fits, become a purchase. In the previous survey, we asked, if you download a model of a part and you buy it, how many do you buy? Because they're rarely buying the one for a prototype. A caster, they're probably buying 4 or increments of 4 or whatever that thing is. So on average, that came out to 20 parts per download. So you start taking that even further and further, multiplying little widgets or whatever the thing is. The ROI proves that pretty quick.
And I don't know if you have stats on this, but I know every company is different. For instance, in the caster industry, some sell mainly offline or online or both. Was there anything that you uncovered in your research that gave insight into maybe how they're buying, whether online or offline? Like if they download something, they like it, are they just going to purchase it online, or does it just kind of depend on the situation?
Not so much. I don't have the data on where they purchased, but one of the things that we've done to improve our product over the years was make it have a direct tie-in to the CRM system or your marketing automation.
Sure.
So you can see, hey, Jim Smith just downloaded an ABC 123 and an ABC 124. Sales reached out to him, gave him pricing on that or a volume discount, and he came back and bought that same product. And you can see that in the customer contact record.
Okay.
And you can really start to I can trace this all the way,
Sure.
cradle to grave, that whole interaction.
Yeah, that's a really useful feature that really helps to measure the ROI and to track effectiveness in ways that otherwise companies probably couldn't do as easily. How do you approach customer education or training for your solutions, be it the company that you are implementing this tool with, or maybe even helping them to help their end user understand how to use their tool?
A couple ways. So it's one of my highest priorities as our director of marketing that our customers understand what they have and how to use it, but also how their customers understand what they have and how to use it. So one of the first things we do when a customer's content is live is we do a marketing kickoff where we train both what they have and ways to consider marketing it and how we can work together and promoting it. And one of the deliverables that we include is we do a demo video for our customer's website, which is like people look at that like, why are you doing that? But it's really, we told manufacturers for years, hey, this would be a great idea. That way your audience knows how to use it. Like, all right, I'm not going to suggest this 400 times and no one takes me up on it. Let's just try to start doing this.
Sure.
And it's become it's kind of templatized, and we have a format that we can do it in a streamlined way. So it isn't a huge lift for us. It's a great deliverable for the customer, and they can put it out. It's a living educational document that they can school their audience on how to use it. Saves their customer service time or their sales team time or whoever would be burdened by explaining it in a quick video.
Great, thanks. Segueing from that regarding educating customers on how to promote their tool, do you have an example of a success story where your solutions significantly improved a client's workflow or their success rate?
Yeah, we have a lot. I'm not always allowed to share, especially when we're getting into the exact details. One that comes to mind, though, Brennan Industries, another Ohio manufacturer. Almost the day after they implemented the new catalog tool, their downloads doubled. And they attributed that to more formats, more products available, and an easier way to use the tool. So just instantly more interaction, more people were happier with it.
Yeah. Do you have any insight into how people are typically finding this downloadability or this tool with your clients? Is it mostly in the case of Brennan that, I don't know if you have this insight, but that they already had the traffic, but they had this tool now, so conversion improved? Or are you seeing a greater rate of people finding this through SEO or ads? YouTube, et cetera? I'm
So
sure it's
it
a mix of
depends.
all
It is
of
a
it.
mixed
But
bag. So one of the things that we say is set up a blank page on your site and just put a catalog level link there that shows all your products in one place. That tends to rank very well, very quickly on Google. So that is a traffic adder. When you put it on your product pages, you see more interaction, more time on page.
Yep.
So some of it is making more out of the traffic that you have. Some of it is finding new traffic. And then the third way is we aggregate all the manufacturers that we work with on our search engine called 3D Find It. There's like 9 million active users on there, and they're always looking for the next caster manufacturer or bearing manufacturer that they don't know. They search, generic terms like caster, and they find and download, and that all flows right into the manufacturer's download data.
okay. I wanted to ask a little bit more about 3D Find It. So as you mentioned, that is sort of, would you call it an aggregator of drawing data or a full database of different CAD information? And can you describe like what's out there, who's typically using that?
So and it kind of comes back to your last question. How do you promote it? Well, if you're out to Google and you're promoting your stuff, keep broad keywords like caster, CAD model, you're going to get a very broad selection of people that are, maybe engineers, maybe specifiers, maybe whatever. We have a search engine, so we're one layer more refined. So we see that as it's mostly engineers on this site, and they are looking every day for the models. Sometimes they don't know what a product's called, and they can search visually. Sometimes they know the manufacturer they're looking for, and they can search by that. Or sometimes they just put in a broad keyword like caster, and it gets them to what they need, and they can begin to explore, configure, and go from there.
Okay. And in some research that Cadenas USA just recently published, I saw, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially when an engineer finds something that is to spec and appropriate for whatever they're making that they're trying to integrate with this CAD drawing, purchasing usually doesn't put up a fight in going ahead with the order, correct? Can you describe a little bit about that process and I guess propensity to buy after?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the engineer has all these criteria they're looking for. They have a size constraint, but there's also safety things and materials and what environment this is going to be used in and where is it sourced from and all these other data points that we can help build into that model. But once the engineer has put that model in there, we help to take it back a step. We actually help the manufacturer build all of that part number and the manufacturer number data into the model. So when the engineer downloads that, it's really embedded in the bill of materials. And there has to be a fantastic reason for purchasing to extract that or pull that out of there. So that's what it really comes back to. Purchasing doesn't want to question a design choice.
Sure.
Oftentimes, historically, engineers will go the path of least resistance and make kind of a lazy choice.
Yep.
And that's when purchasing would get involved. Like we have a volume deal with manufacturer C and you chose manufacturer A and the product's the same. Why'd you do that?
Right.
If there's hundreds or thousands of products in that becomes a huge chore in itself, just debating each component. So helping manufacturers make the right choice up front helps purchasing streamline the whole process and buy the right products from the vendors they want to buy from.
Okay, thanks. Another thing that was mentioned in the research that Cadenas USA just published was that step files aren't enough. Conventional 3D CAD models are now being replaced by intelligent 4D data, also known as digital twins. So this is a term that I'm not familiar with. Can you describe what that means?
So there's kind of two questions there. Like step files aren't always enough because for people that don't understand, a step file is kind of the version that works with any CAD system. So if you think of in Microsoft, you use like Notepad and that makes it a TXT, a text document. Sure, you can open that in Word, but it's not really like using Word the best.
Right.
And you can open a Word doc in Notepad and you can see how screwed up it gets. That's kind of, a step file is sort of that text file. It's the lowest common denominator, the lowest version of that that's viable. A lot of manufacturers provide those because they're easy. You can just hang them off your website. They have them, and it more or less works in every format. Why a native format might be important is because it keeps all that fidelity there. If you have, say, fonts or whatever in a text document, that doesn't work. It doesn't work back and forth. Same thing as a step file. All the fidelity of that product model carries through, into whatever they're using, Inventor or Solid Edge or SolidWorks. And taking that a step further, the digital twin is really building all this extra information into that. So if it's a caster, how that caster pivots on the kingpin or how the brake works, and they can actually use the functions of that within the design as opposed to just being like a block that looks like a CAD model. And those are going even further and further with materials, and we're really at the very bleeding edge of digital twin right now. And this is where ideally manufacturers are going to take these and have a digital version of entire factories and machines so they can do simulations in real time and see, oh, this motor is set to run at 40,000 duty cycles or whatever the thing is, and see, oh, we know when that's going to break, and we can do predictive maintenance and all those things on it. If you take that all the way back to the beginning, build that data into a digital twin CAD model that you're providing and help them do these. Because they can't. The manufacturer, at the end of the day, that OEM that's aggregating all those components can't do that themselves. They need the help of each component manufacturer to build that into the model.
Okay. That's great to know. One thing that I'm curious about is, as we've started to think about this some more as well at Caster Connection, is in terms of the caster industry websites, everybody provides specs, but not necessarily everyone is, unless it's a written description or a video or maybe an infographic, not necessarily displaying product performance attributes. So I know that with the Cadenas USA Parts Solutions tool, that essentially communicates product physical specs. But I guess when it comes to, for instance, an engineer considering, okay, all of this in this caster meets my physical spec requirements, but I also need a caster that is going to provide push-pull force below 45 pounds on a 1,500-pound cart. I don't know if you guys have insight into that. If they're taking a step further, they find that, and then they're going to read some additional information on the website about the performance aspect of the product, just besides the physical attributes.
So there's a couple ways to do that. One, if you can make a rule for it, you can make that configurable, selectable part of your model. So if you can say, I want this caster to be whatever push force, or I'm not a caster expert, so you're going to get me speaking out of turn here, but whatever that thing is, if you can make a rule for it, we can build it into the model and make it a selectable choice. Another way I've seen manufacturers have success with this is they use that as a jumping off point for a design consultation. They're like, hey, you're at like the 1 yard line here. Ping our expert. They'll review and make sure what you have is the right choice for your design. And that's another way that we've seen good ROI calculation is that talk to a manufacturer, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but they did these design consultations and they said 90% of the time they grabbed the model from the configurator, and almost 100% of the time they had the right model. Like it was walking them down the right path. They had to give a little bit of coaching, but they'd used the tool in the right way. They got into the design consultation, they had the work checked, and they were doing the right thing. So they were really empowering their customers to make the choice, the right choice, and they're verifying it by their engineering team.
And in terms of, so that's the jumping off point of using a product, purchasing a product, implementing it. I know this has to vary by industry, but do you guys have any insight into if the customer longevity, if they originate, let's say in the case of Caster Connection, manufacturer XYZ downloads drawings from our website, and then they implement that product. Do you have any insight into the longevity of the customer? I don't know if there's maybe more loyalty because they found this manufacturer's website easy to use in the first place, or if that really varies.
Yeah, and that was another one of those interesting data points from our survey is that what's the number one thing an engineer wants from a manufacturer is a simple and easy to use website. Like all the stuff that we do is great. Make it easy, make it simple to use, make it intuitive. And we've seen that it becomes a relationship builder for manufacturers, both as an introduction, if they don't know you, it's a great starting point, but also if they do know you and they know you're the one where they can get in, get what they need quickly and get back to work, you have the products that they need to match to the CAD model, it's really an adder. I don't have a super detailed data on that part of it. That tends to be the manufacturer's data, but yeah, it's really a relationship builder for manufacturers.
And now we'll take a moment as we hear a word from our sponsors.
Unlock reliability with Caster Connection, the leader in industrial caster solutions for over 35 years. Together, we can keep your business in motion while maximizing efficiency, safety, and ROI. Contact us to transform your operation or use promo code STREAM10 for 10% off at casterconnection.com. Act fast, limited time offer exclusive to website orders. Not valid with other offers.
And as I've become more familiar with this world and viewed other manufacturer websites, caster company, material handling, and others, that I've found that they offer something like this, or maybe it is from working with Cadenas USA that they offer this tool. So it seems like it's become standard that this is something that you have to offer. It's something that customers do expect to have. I guess, is there anything that you see on the horizon beyond what the tool currently offers, or maybe a next step, since this feels like it's becoming standard as an expectation of engineers, that perhaps down the road they're going to expect something more?
I think that's when we get to the digital twin things. And we have, admittedly, very few component manufacturers provide a true digital twin yet. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a spectrum, a broad spectrum, and everybody's really at that starting point. And when people start building in all that material information, or if anything you can think of that you would associate with a model, you can have tables of data, attached to that CAD model.
Yeah.
All those things are going to be more and more and more important as we get down the road, because humans are being taken out of the conversation more and more. Mm-hmm. That's why we want to put this data up front and help engineers get it quickly, and ideally they don't even have to call anyone at your team. They know they download it, they know where to order it, they know they're getting it, and they're happy, and it has everything they need. And so any way that manufacturers can add fidelity and detail to their models, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, because just like everything that we're seeing on the internet, textually is now powering AI and all these other advanced features.
Yeah.
Things like these CAD models are going to be a cornerstone of the future of engineering AI and all those things.
And you mentioned, so I was thinking of this in regards to how someone goes about finding information, just anyone, not necessarily an engineer, but how Google, for example, they've implemented their AI tool where you ask a question, and in some cases it's prioritizing an AI answer that aggregates information from around the web and just gives you a text answer versus actual links. And I know in the case of caster CAD models, any kind of CAD models, you're probably going to get search results first. But in the research that Cadenas USA published, it was mentioned that engineers prefer to download from the manufacturer's website. So I was just wondering, have you guys seen any kind of shift or foresee anything with maybe AI interrupting finding manufacturers' websites as quickly if they're searching for answers on certain things, or is the search totally different? I didn't know if it was interrupting or kind of shifting anything with like 3D Find It, for example.
We haven't seen that yet. The nice thing that we have is we have a piece of content that it's not just an answer. And so that is where it hasn't been broken by AI yet. Ideally, that won't happen. You can say, hey, who are manufacturers that provide caster CAD models? And they'll maybe give you a list and send you in the right direction.
Yep.
But the idea is that it's really a piece of content, and you're trying to get the shortest path. That engineer's trying to get the shortest path to the right thing that they need. So I don't think AI has figured that one out yet, fortunately.
So it seems like a lot of success for those that offer this kind of tool, CAD configurator offering, or however you want to term it. A lot of it has to do with generating brand awareness and also doing well in SEO or in terms of advertising to find their tool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some things that you help your clients with to help make the tool more marketable, more likely to have a higher success rate. You mentioned creating a blank landing page and placing the tool there, maybe some copy, et cetera. I guess, what are some steps beyond that you recommend in promoting this tool? Is it mentioning it in footers of emails?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to do those things. I'd have calls to action. We have the same pitfall myself, in that we have a piece of content that's been around for 3 months and we're bored of it, so we stop talking about it. This content is as evergreen as it's ever going to get. I joke that I'm jealous of our manufacturers that we work with, because I have to hustle to make white papers and all this stuff, and you guys have this just cornucopia of CAD models to provide. So promoting it really becomes the mission of the day. So considering who the audience is and making sure that you're getting in front of them. Like, for example, if you're doing LinkedIn ads, you can use this as your conversion content that you have a call to action for, and you can get as granular as who are the engineering types that you want to get in front of. If you're doing, say, pay-per-click ads, instead of just saying casters, being broad about, make the product that you're promoting the CAD download, because you're already a level more specific to what they might be looking for. So buying keyword ads around caster CAD downloads or CAD models of casters or whatever that next thing might be, you're finding a audience member that's ready to convert as opposed to this broad general information about who makes casters.
Yeah.
So things like that. Just think through their steps and try to put yourself serendipitously in their path.
Sure. And what advice would you give to a company that's just starting to think about or look into digital catalog solutions like what Cadenas USA offers?
The two big tips I would have is start small. I'd pick your most popular product line and do that as a proof of concept. We have manufacturers all the time that do that, and it's a great way to prove it with a bite-sized project. It's both bite-sized for content creation, the time of creating the content, and then implementing it into their website. And then they can see the ROI. And when you're like, oh, that was one of our 25 product lines, then they can multiply out and start to see how it could ultimately prove out. The other, just for companies getting started, especially with us, marketing and engineering get on the same page early, because that's one of those stumbling points where we see marketing tends to pay for this tool. Engineering has to provide the data and validate that it's correct. And if those two aren't on the same page, it gums up the works, slows down the project, and you're not hitting on all cylinders.
Sure. And in terms of who would be looking into, if we're talking about a company that hasn't used something like this before and they're looking into solutions, are you typically finding that if someone's thinking about doing this for the first time, that maybe their product is not as involved in moving parts, components, things like that, if they're looking into it for the first time just by nature?
Not always, but yes, that tends to be one of the things where it's funny, they used to look at our stuff and be like, oh, this is cool, but our products aren't configurable. See you later. And like, whoa, it doesn't have to be configurable. Slow down. We can talk about this. And really, it's anyone that wants to provide a better experience in interacting with their product. We have manufacturers that have so many variations of a product that they couldn't even possibly show you a photo of every variation. So making that a configurable image is great. We also have some that they sell so many non-configurable products, they couldn't have an image of all those products. So having a model of them enables them to at least give a representation, and that their end user can then spin it around. They can look at it from every angle, see the dimensions on it, and then they can download and test it in their design. And that's really the thing that the manufacturers have to see this as. It's not about the configuration or the online visualization, even though that's huge. It's giving them a way to try it on inside of their machine digitally.
Okay. And is that something that you think is kind of an intangible/tangible benefit that maybe some clients don't think about but is useful, is that these configurations can be used as product images, whereas they don't have to take physical photos, or it's almost impossible with setting up, photographing, editing, uploading, all that stuff?
Yeah, and there's a few different ways that we approach that. If they like to show off configurable representation, that's great. But we've also had manufacturers that they're like, render us an image of every configuration of our products, all with the same background, the same dimensions, same shadow, same reflections, and we can give them that for pennies compared to, I mean, I've been the guy that had to take product images. I work for a site furnishings manufacturer, and we'd spend the whole summer. I'd have a troop of interns, and we'd be like taking benches out, running them out to the park to take photos. And that was only maybe 25, 30 products. I could not imagine having hundreds or thousands of products taking physical images. So having a digital representation of them it's just a game changer. Yeah.
And then a final component, if you're taking physical product, is then you set it up, you photograph it, you edit, upload, and then what do you do with the product at the end? Do you disassemble it, put it back?
And then how soon is it out of date?
Right. There are a lot of stages involved that may not be considered. There are times where definitely a customer is going to want to see an actual photo, and that's something that we encounter, and we'll do that as needed. But this is a big time savings, and it helps to communicate an illustration of whatever we're trying to show. So I've found it to be really useful as well.
That's another area where adding fidelity into the models can help, because if you have surface materials and finishes, these rendering tools that are out there now that we can do is we can stack onto our tool to render. I mean, you can't tell it's not a photo in some cases.
Yeah.
Now, our out of the box, it looks like a rendering, but it definitely gives you all the representation that you need. But you can get the Jurassic Park version of it with the the perfect finish materials and all that.
Have you found when a customer of yours is interested in adding more fidelity, does that usually add more to the scope with you guys, or how does that work?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how ready their data is. If it's clean and it's lined up in a nice table and we can just bump it in there, it's hours. It's how many hours is involved. So we have manufacturers that have nothing and they give us like their 2-inch thick catalog and we got to sort through it and find it all and aggregate that. Yeah. That's more expensive than somebody that's just like, here's a Excel document that has it all and we drop it right in. So it's really, however clean the data is what it costs.
Okay, that makes sense. What are some challenges that customers might face when they're using CAD software, and how do you address those? Be it your tool, are there any challenges maybe that you guys have found in the past that you've worked through and updated, or are there common challenges in the first place that you've found that end users have?
Yeah, so we, like I said before, we do those marketing kickoffs, and those came to be because we had this challenge that I would get called in because we had an unhappy customer that was like, ready to turn the tool off, and we'd be doing some research, and I'd be like, I can't find this thing on their website. Is it out there? Does it exist? Did we turn it on? And we'd have the meeting with them, and they're like, well, yeah, we don't get any downloads. And we're like, well, where is it? And they're like, oh, well, you have to, if you go on this one click, and then you go around the corner, and then 3 things down, and if it's not intuitive to get to it, nobody's going to use it. And we create the content, we put it out there. We'll coach a manufacturer up on where to put it and how to consider putting it on their website. But if you don't promote it and they can't find it, they're not going to use it. And it's just as easy as that. So making your site the trusted source of information for your manufacturers is the top thing to do. And then making it easy to get to, simplify the process wherever you can is really the next thing.
That makes sense. Thanks for that information. I think that'll be helpful for a lot of listeners maybe that are considering it or haven't, maybe they're in manufacturing or kind of the industrial world and haven't thought about that marketing approach previously. In terms of your approach to branding in what largely seems to be an industrial technical setting, what's Cadenas USA's approach to branding, or at least helping your end users with branding, where that comes into play in promoting this tool?
Yeah, so for us branding our company and our products, we've done well associating ourselves with these larger themes, like industrial marketing or just being around the CAD download space. It's like there's not too many analogs to what we do. So speaking about the entire offering as a generic term for us has worked well. Also, just putting our customers at the forefront. We have like the best customers in the world and we love to show off what they do and we're proud of them. And so we love to put the spotlight on them, and really we just get carried along for the ride as somebody that helps these brilliant manufacturers do better.
Great, thanks. Are there any specific channels that you have found most effective for reaching your target audience or your end users and reaching theirs? You talked a little bit about SEO. I know that as part of the package of working with Cadenas USA, I don't know if it's every package, but it involves Cadenas putting together a video that your customer can use to help promote. But is there a main source that you've found that people are generally finding this tool through?
Not exactly. The one thing that's the challenge is that no two manufacturers call this the same thing. So some call it CAD downloads and some call it an e-catalog or a digital catalog. So what we've done is, again, we take at an up and out level and talk about industrial marketing and being associated with these larger themes and making sure they know who we are as a brand. We still believe heavily in email marketing. We've done that for years. And our goal is to make it interesting, so interesting that our audience stays along with us. We try not to be self-promotional. We try to be interesting, informative, and useful for them, as well as the manufacturers that we're promoting. And like you're saying, that's one of those deliverables that we provide every manufacturer, in that we create an announcement around their new catalog. We push it out to our email marketing. We push it out to our social channels. We've had good luck on LinkedIn over the years. But, putting the manufacturers at the forefront, having people understand what they do and how it's transforming their business has been really our key thing.
Awesome. One thing that I remember when Caster Connection started talking with Cadenas USA was there was a stat that was included in pitch materials at the time. I believe it was something like those that download drawings are 6 times more likely to convert another way. I know earlier you said there's 91% of them are able to. So kind of a different way of saying it. But I guess in terms of conversion, are you seeing that converting in another way, does that usually mean purchasing and or quote request? Is that how you usually look at it?
I think manufacturers define those differently.
Sure.
I think we lean harder on the purchase part of things. We've seen the raw charts when manufacturers are like, here's the day that we put our CAD catalog on there. And, it's a trailing chart of different scales, but you can see that same trajectory on both sides of their CAD downloads are up and to the right, their sales are up and to the right. They can't always get granular in tracking those, and that's why we've added more tools to help do that. But they see it as a fundamental driver. The earliest manufacturers, it was a differentiator. Now, a lot of manufacturers, it's a must-have, and it's a way to keep up and make sure that you're not losing business to the other manufacturers who do provide that.
Yeah, so it seems like a bit of something that marketing can have in their back pocket to make their company more attractive to work with, or the products more attractive to those that are looking for them. So that's helping from a lead generation perspective, customer engagement perspective. So it sounds like integrating mentions of that tool or integrating it even into other kinds of messaging. If you're talking about a specific new product and saying, oh, by the way, here's a way that you can download drawings of it. It all kind of plays into that ecosystem. And that sounds like a lot of what you described in terms of how maybe your more engaged customers of yours are actually using and implementing this tool. What advice would you give to a marketing team on using the CAD file availability as a unique selling point, maybe that we haven't touched on so far? So is there anything more explicitly, like in the description outside of the tool being there, like descriptor, anything like that?
Don't get cute with it as far as what you're calling it. Don't call it the Configuralizer 2000 or anything like that. Think of what somebody's going to search for on Google and be as generic CAD library or CAD downloads or the CAD configurator or digital product data. You can, when they get too cute with it, it's like, I love the effort and the idea, but it doesn't get you the SEO juice that you'd hope for. The other thing that I would say is consider each of those a lead that should be nurtured. So when someone downloads a CAD model, what do you do with it? Do you do anything with it? Do you even pay attention? We have manufacturers that don't touch them at all, and they trust that they're going to phone home with all the data that we build into it.
So they're waiting for inbound leads.
It already is an inbound lead, but they're waiting for it to circle
for them
back.
To come
to
ask
call
for
back
a quote or something,
Yeah, and that's one of the things that by tying it into a CRM or marketing automation, the first thing we recommend is, yes, you want reports and you want to see how those are aligning, but have an automated follow-up. Have that automated follow-up say, hey, thanks for downloading say the exact part number there, say all the relevant information, link back to the product page, and then give the information that they need to buy that product at the end of the day. Help, and then nurture that engineer down the path to understand more about your company. We're a German company, so GDPR is super critical for us, which is the privacy regulations that they have. This is very much inbounds communication for GDPR. So if any international company, you're allowed to speak to someone who downloads about relevant things to the conversion that they made. So if they downloaded a caster model, you're allowed to say, hey, thanks for downloading. Here's the information. Did you know we have volume pricing, or we have a shop near you, or we have availability at whatever the thing is that you would want to convey to them? This is an inbounds green light to make that connection and carry the ball further down the field.
That's a great point about some of the specifics that can be used to follow up with mention of the product, of the downloads. That's a great point to consider in promoting this or using the tool more effectively. Thanks, Adam. This has been really enlightening. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we head out?
Another detail we were discussing is, why does an engineer need to have the option of multiple file types? And it's really who that engineer is and the vertical they represent. So each of these file CAD tools is used by different verticals. Military uses one, and aerospace uses one, and consumer goods uses a different one. You want to give them the file format that works the best in their system. Again, they can all probably use a step file, but they might lose some fidelity in there and might not carry the part number through. So that's one of those things. If you just provided any one of those, so like some manufacturers just put SolidWorks files out there, that's great for the 25% of the audience that uses those, but the other 75% has to compromise. The one nice part about what we help manufacturers with is the PDF data sheets is one of our most popular downloaded formats, and that is because it's used by everybody, not just engineers, also purchasing and documentation. Anyone that needs to have either a physical or a digital record of the product, it's all built into that too. So, and you get the same quality of lead information from PDF as CAD model too. So something to think about.
Yeah, that's great to know, because many times, as we know, engineering will play a big role in specifying a product or bringing something to the finish line, but there are often multiple people involved in final decision making. So thanks for that point. Well, thanks, Adam. This has been really enlightening. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today on the Industrial Lens. Really enjoyed learning more about what Cadenas USA can offer, about the tools, about the utility of the tool, about the marketability of the tool. This is all great information. So on casterconnection.com, we will be having a blog that has the research data that I mentioned earlier regarding Cadenas USA and links to 3D Find It. If you're listening to this episode, maybe via social media or via Caster Connection's website, you can also find the Industrial Lens podcast on all major podcast platforms. And Adam, do you want to give the website address for Cadenas USA so I don't butcher it?
Yeah, 3dfindit.com is really the source for everyone to go find any of the manufacturer content. Everything's going to be there already. So 3dfindit.com would be the place to go.
All right. Thanks. Okay, thanks everyone. We're wrapping up with Adam Beck, Director of Marketing at Cadenas USA. Catch us again for the next episode of the Industrial Lens.